Well, hello everyone. It's Dr. Tracy with drtracy.tv. Good, happy Friday morning to you all. Here we are. It is a beautiful Friday morning, and who is ready for some more 16 and Me? So, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, let me tell you a little bit about this show called 16 and Me. 16 and Me is the show where I help you learn how to silence that inner critic inside here so that you can become everything that you want to become in life. So who exactly is 16? 16 is that inner persona that, and I think we have about 17 of them. And 16 is that inner persona that has like an ego out to here, fear out to here, issues out to here. And if we're not careful, if there are 17 seats at the table, she ends up taking up 15 and overriding our thought process. So in the world of psychology, people call 16 the pathological critic. In Buddhism, they call it Maya. In some spiritual circles, they call it the shadow feminine. Well, around here, I call her 16. But here's the thing. Even though we might think that this 16 is this side of our personality that we need to get rid of, that's not the case. Because one day during my prayer and meditation time, I said okay, so why is she number 16? What does that represent? And the answer that I got back was that because 1 plus 6 is 7. 7 is a magical perfect number within itself. So we all need to embrace our 16s, and we all have, unless you're highly narcissistic, we all have a 16 living inside of us. And it just is that. It's a pathological voice that can just overrule us. Okay, let me say some good mornings. And then I am going to teach you a new skill. It's a skill that 16 uses to sabotage us when we're hoping for something, when we have a special dream or hope in our life, and then 16 steps in. Okay, first off, some good mornings. Hello, Silver Lining 123. Good morning. I believe that you are down in India. Good morning, Mrs. Curvey, North Continent. Kimberly here in California. I have a special guest on also today who's going to be sharing her 16 with us. Give me a thumbs up. Can all of you see me okay? Number one. And number two, something is going on with my phone where apparently my head is this big in the screen, and it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be normal 3/4 body length right now, and I see it like that. But when I was watching some of the playbacks, I was like the big talking head, the big talking eyeball at certain points. All right. Good morning, Tasha. It's nice to see you. Good morning, Starvu, Elias, nice to see you. Thank you so much for logging in. Good morning, Celine. Nice to see you. Oh my goodness, how are you, beautiful woman? Okay, so how many of you, for those of you who are watching, you probably already know that 16 exists. And, I've been going through something over the past few weeks. And let me tell you, as my guest a couple weeks ago, Alicia Pillow, said, 16 literally built a runway in the middle of my living room and has been strutting that runway with her chanting messages for days and days. So I want to share with you, though, today a very common way that 16 can sabotage us when we get a hope and a dream. So let me tell you, let me take you through this scenario. How many of you grab a hold of a certain dream and you're like, I really want that dream, or I really want that job, or gosh, I kind of hope that I'm able to connect with that person, or wow, wouldn't it be amazing if this could really happen to me? And all of a sudden, once you have that dream thought, 16 goes, yeah, but you know what? You better just prepare if it doesn't happen, because if it doesn't happen, then, there's life after that dream, and, everything that's meant to be will be if you don't get it. And or you think you go looking into like trying to face a problem of some sort, and you're like, okay, and I'm going to be strong, I'm going to get through this, I'm going to do it. And then 16 has to point out all the worst sides of that which is bad that can happen. And you're thinking to yourself, and the whole thing is that those of us who are connected with our 16, we can now say, okay, 16, stand down, princess, not today, right? But if you don't know that is 16 talking to you, then you're going to get taken down the rabbit hole thinking that those are your thoughts. But those are actually not your thoughts. Those are some traumatized history notes that are afraid to repeat the crash that you felt before. So 16 is trying to warn you not to crash, right? But so there you are, you're like, oh, I really hope I get this job, or okay, I'm going through this problem and I'm going to be strong. And then it paints every worst case situation that you can walk through. And sometimes psychologists will say, you just prepare for the worst and plan for the best. Well, sometimes that also kind of knocks you down a few notches. So what's happening? Can anybody relate to what I'm talking about right now? Let me hear a little bit of feedback. Okay, good. So what's happening at that particular point in time is that 16 is doing something that's called conditioning. And what conditioning is doing, the purpose of conditioning, well, thank you, Farshadam. I'm going to ruin your name. I love you too. Okay, what conditioning is doing is that conditioning is our fear of failing or of not getting what we want. So rather than going in with like, balls out, here I go, I'm going to go for this positive attitude, plan A only, 16 will start to tell us, well, you know what, if this doesn't happen, you need to prepare for A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. I'm sure, and I say this with great sarcasm, that every gold Olympic athlete has said, in case I don't win the gold, I am going to accept the silver medal like this. In case I don't qualify, I'm going to plan on moving over to Jamaica for my recovery. No! When they're going for their goal, all they're thinking about is that which can happen. And so those of you who are saying, yeah, but you know what about, shouldn't we kind of prepare if it doesn't happen? All right, listen, beautiful souls. I don't know about you, but I have been through so many crashes in my life. I have been splattered on the emotional floor of life so many times that I happen to know deep inside of me, I know exactly what to do when I face plant. So I don't think I necessarily need to have a plan in place when I face plant, because I have enough history to know how to pick myself up and get moving on again. Does any of this make sense to you? So what I want you to work on this week with your conditioning is I want you to think about the goals and the dreams that you have, and you can give 16 one round of a voice, and that's like one time she gets to tell you that, prepare for the worst, and you get to think about it one time, and then you're not going to think about it ever again. You're going to spend all your energy focusing on that which is right, that which is good, that which is your success, that where you're on the winning team of life and the one walking away with the trophy. Agreed? Okay. So I have a guest on the show, and if you ever want to be a guest on the show, just drop me a PM. And I just love this woman, and I happen to her 16 cracks me up. So we've had some great conversations, and let me introduce you. You guys already know her. I know you do if you're around from around here. Here comes Miss Andrea. Waiting, waiting, waiting. Okay, we're connecting. There we go.
Hi.
Hi, Jessica. How are you?
I'm great. Should I do a filter or do I look okay?
Well, I think you look great, but I mean, am I Mrs. Big Face like I've been like over the past couple of weeks? Oh, that was 16. Hello, Mrs. Big Face.
Yeah, I
Especially
like the
since,
big face.
yeah, especially since I stepped on the scale for the first time in like forever.
Oh,
And I'm like, really? And I've gained weight? Nice.
water weight. It's water weight.
Yeah, hope so. Okay, how are you, Miss Andrea?
I am well. Your little talk this morning kind of helped me out a little bit before this wonderful conversation we're going to have.
Yeah, so let's talk about, one of the reasons why I invited you on the phone on the show was because first off, I just missed you and I wanted to see you. Hello, Emily, nice to see you. But secondly, because we have had so many conversations where your 16 would just take center stage, and we would end up being able to start laughing about
Mhm,
it. But
mhm.
why don't you introduce us a little bit to your 16 and tell her, and the thing about 16, for those of you who are watching, 16 doesn't just have one dress in her closet. Sometimes she can show up like the diva. Sometimes she can show up like the mourning widow. Sometimes she can show up like a ghoul. Sometimes she can show up like an angry, yeah. And sometimes she can show up like the biggest scaredy cat on the block. It all depends on what dress she puts on
Yeah.
in the morning and decides to, attack you. So share with us a little about 16 and how she showed up in your life lately.
Well, 16 still kind of hanging around, unfortunately. I'm
Like,
really
like, like I said, Alicia Blow said the funniest quote, and I actually posted it up on my feed where she said, 16 built a runway in She calls January I think her heavy month or something like that nature. And she's like, 16 built a runway in my living room in January and hasn't stopped strutting since, January 1st. And I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, that's a great way to think. Okay, so
yeah.
16 built her runway.
My
And
16 is doing this.
oh, she's a finger wagger.
Oh, yes.
Okay, tell me
Oh,
about
yeah.
her. Tell me about her voice.
Yes, she's very kind of mommy dearest,
Oh,
kind of a Joan Crawford, and she's
hang,
very
hang the clothes with wire hangers. Okay, go on.
no more wire hangers. Yes, and she's like, "What are you doing? Why do you think you're doing that? Don't do that anymore. What are you dumb? What are you thinking? What is happening with you? She's yeah, she goes into with this, and then she sits on the pity potty for a while and drags you down with her.
Oh,
Says, I
she
need some
does.
company. I need some company. I can't do this alone. Yeah, she's very demeaning, extremely demeaning. And it's hard. It's hard to hear that. And it's not even a whisper when she's around. It's totally that scolding and you're a loser and why are you doing this? And you just fail every single time and stop doing this. And it's that mother voice.
That finger shaker. So the something that's really important to know about 16 is that 16, and you're going to hear me say this every single time we talk, is 16 stems from. We are not born with 16. 16 stems from a trauma,
Mm-hmm.
something that happened to us in our past, where the lesson that we learned in life, it was a life defining moment. And when we have a life defining moment, it either attaches itself with good messages
or bad messages.
Mhm.
And so what happens is that on our reclaiming me, on our repair journey, on our, evolution journey, or whatever you want to call it, our potentiality journey, that in order for us to not get taken down the rabbit hole with 16,
Mhm.
is that we have to make that space between me, Tracy, you, Andrea, the person that experienced a trauma wound, that when we did, we had absolutely no tools to process it. And here's the thing, that like a download that I'm getting right now, is the job of a child is to be a child.
Mhm.
The job of a child is not to process trauma wounds,
Mhm.
because we are absolutely ill equipped. And that, like, I almost want to cry when I say that. We are absolutely ill equipped to process trauma.
Mhm.
And so we are defenseless against negative life defining moments. And the only thing that they can do is lodge this voice, that the only way that it can try to protect us in the future is to kick the crap out of us.
They do. She does.
I know she does, with her big finger. Okay, with her big finger.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna, first off, the one thing that, okay, so we have to make that space, right, to be able to, it's called thought stopping, to be able to go, okay, stop it,
Mhm.
stop it, 16, stop it. And unfortunately, no one can rescue us from 16 but ourselves. Now, here's a beautiful thing. Our little Bishi tribe, and those of us who are members of the 16 and Me club,
Mhm.
when we're talking with each other, and that voice comes out of us, if I know 16, I'm like, wow, hi 16, good morning. Didn't get a good night's rest last night, did you? Or, and I've had so many people who are close to me going like, okay, 16, I hear you. And it helps to diffuse it. But if you don't have that support team around you and you're by yourself, just getting plummeted
Mhm.
from the inside, and then, for those of you who are watching and you don't have a 16, you have no idea what plummeting feels like from that inner critic voice from 16. So you got to make that space in between it. Okay, so when you go get your manicure this next time, what I want you to do is, I want you to go and I want you to get like a red glitter on just your one pointer finger, right? And every time that 16 begins to yell at you, I want, like, everything beautiful but that one. And then every time, and you go to the mirror and you say to her, exactly what she's saying to you now. Are you so dumb that you really can't get it right this time?
Yeah.
And to draw that space in between.
Mhm.
And one of the keys of being successful with silencing 16 is truth, is truth. And I have a personal boundary with my scolding, with my scolding 16, and I've been able to almost silence my scolding 16. I mean, she pops up, she, like I said, she wears many dresses, and when she puts on her perfectionist dress and she begins to, mine doesn't point the finger like this. Mine puts her hands on her hips, and then she bobbles her head at me, and she totally bobbles her head at me. Like, are you kidding me? Are you like the only one in the world that can do that? And my hair's right. That's what she does. And then she goes one step further and she's like, and now you messed up my perfect hair. Like, can you not get anything right? Right? So,
Oh, I
so
so can relate.
yeah. And so, when I see her put her hands up on her hip, and she has to, do this waddling thing back and forth and the bobbling thing back and forth, I will immediately recognize, okay, 16, stop. And I have a mantra that I use for my life, when it comes to my perfectionist 16,
Mhm.
that I say to myself and I say to her, 16, I made the choices in my past that I did based on the tools that I had at the time. And the tools that I had at the time were nothing. but I'm not that person now. Now I know how to ask for help. Now I have a lot smarter people around me. Now I'm the adult in the relationship. And now I realize that the world can't split open and literally swallow me up and nobody will notice that I'm gone.
Mhm. Mhm.
Nobody in the whole universe, nobody will notice that Tracy Kemble's gone, you know. And so one thing that we have to do, you know, there's a lot of self-forgiveness that goes into and the other word that's coming to me, and we talked about it in the BC class on the five perfume, is self-compassion.
Mhm.
Just learning to be kind to yourself. Because, you know, one thing I know about you, Andrea, is that you are like one of the kindest people I know. And you're so generous with your kindness toward yourself. So now I'm going to put you on the hot seat. So if the kind Andrea, that is your emotional DNA, had to talk to the Andrea that's getting beat up, as well as Silence, and I know you've got tough boundaries in you too, Silence 16,
Mhm.
what would that strong Andrea say, who can take that position to say, you know what, I made the choices in my past based on the tools that I had at the time. And look at that little child that was wounded and say, let me ask that child, how many tools did you have at the time?
Absolutely none.
Right. So
None.
is it fair to beat up on her?
No, it is not fair to beat up on her, but she's very powerful.
16 is very powerful. So what would you say in a moment of compassion, having kindness towards the person that's getting beat up on, and what would you say to 16 to make her stop in truth? What's a more truth-telling story? Like, give me one of 16 statements.
uh, you're never going to be able to do this. Why do you keep trying? You fail every single time.
Oh, she's globalizing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you use your Scooby-Doo voice? Never? Like never? Like ever? I'm never gonna get it right. Is it,
Hmm.
and so what's a truth-telling statement with the word never? It,
Well, true.
it's absolutely impossible for us to never get anything right. I mean, I happen to know in your history you're a principal, you're raising successful children, you're Mrs. US of A, then you went on to win Mrs. Classy Globe. So it's kind of like you never can get anything right. You kind of gotten a lot of things right. So what would be a more truth-telling statement at that moment?
Shut up.
Uh, yeah, stop. I go like, stop it.
Let me throw something at you.
Yeah. You point your finger
Because,
back at her.
yeah,
Listen to me.
it's not. Or just grab, I want to just grab her finger and just bend it down and just say, shut up. You know,
Okay, but you have to talk back. So after the word shut up, because she'll shut up. When you shut up,
oh,
she
she's,
gets all offended.
oh, yeah, she's appalled. Like,
Yeah, okay.
really?
Yeah. Yeah. And now you would say back to her, first off, it's impossible. First off, stop beating up on the kid that has no defenses. Stop it. That's officially off limits. You
Hmm.
want to take me on? You want to take me on at my age? A
Hmm.
mother of two? You
Hmm.
can take me on. So
That's
now
right.
you are telling me, the adult Andrea, that I never get anything right. Well, you know what? I can look at my resume and yeah, I admit there's a lot of things I haven't gotten right. But again, I didn't have the tools. I didn't know better. Or I had fear. Or you know what? I was freaking human. How about that excuse?
Hmm. Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, I need to have the voice that comes out that when my daughters come to me and say, so and so was really mean to me today, and she said this, and she said I shouldn't like squirrels, and I love squirrels. And I say, you tell that girl that you love squirrels, and it is quite all right for you to love squirrels. You know,
Exactly.
stand up for yourself.
Exactly. And so using those exact words, you look back at 16 and you literally say, you know what? Every person has the right not to get it right.
That's right.
Every person has the right. And I'm on that list. I have the right not to get it right. And one thing I know about myself is I have gotten up more than I've remained on the ground. So you can wave your ugly finger, blaming finger at me all you want, but it's not going to stop me. And you don't know the future, because she's like a future predictor.
Mm-hmm.
You are not going to get that. And you need to remind her, you are not a future predictor. You have no idea what my future resides. And guess what? With your doomsday approach, I'm not letting you leave this boat.
Mm-hmm.
I heard an analogy once that there was a boat that was sinking. And the captain of the boat was like, the boat's sinking, and they were in the middle of nowhere, right? And the crew rebelled and threw the captain off the boat. And the guests on the boat were going like, why did you throw the captain off the boat? And the crew said, because the last thing we need right now is somebody to remind us that the boat's sinking. We need a leader to show us how to get out of this.
Oh, I love that.
And that's who we have to be when 16 is sinking our emotional boat. We need to go, sit down, princess. Not today. You're scared of something, and I will stop and listen to you in my journal and therapy time, but not today, because I have an interview to go to. I have a project to execute. I have to be brave and strong. And then you do a quick inventory in your past when you were splattered on your face, and somehow you got up and kept moving forward. And that's a person that becomes the leader of your ship.
Yeah. And it's funny because when I see the finger shaking and she comes out and does all of that, I tend that 16 is yelling at me, and I tend to sit on the couch and just wallow. I don't stand up to her. But if it were my child that somebody was bullying like that, I would be all over that crap. I'd be like, that is my baby. You don't do my baby.
And Andrea, especially people who come through childhood trauma, it is so important for us to recognize that there is that inner wounded, helpless child and it's a memory bank that we have, that we need to go rescue her, because only we know where she is. And I remember I had a dream once when I was deep in my recovery and doing like my inner child work and things of that nature. And in this dream, I was walking down this yellow road, and this big yellow, that's why yellow has such a significance to me, brick wall. And I was the adult me, and I looked down, I'm carrying a baby, and I'm like, holy crap, what is a baby? Where's this baby come from, right? And I looked down and I look at the baby's face, and it was me. And it was a symbology of me holding on to, I almost get cry, holding on to that baby, that inner child within me, and holding on to it. And I made a commitment that day that I would separate the two, that I would be the adult Tracy, who I can't say had a lot of skills and tools at the time, but I was at least in and out of therapy enough to learn, reading everything I could, right? I was just giving it the good girl try. But I realized that child needed me to protect her, because the job of a child is to be a child, and children are defenseless over trauma wounds, but we adults aren't. And so when you're on the couch, rather than kind of taking the seat of 16 and being, yeah, look at you there, sitting on the couch, aligning with those words, obviously they are true, and we start doing our own self-punishing instead, to say, shut up or stop it, silencio.
Right.
And draw that separation and realize that the person that's sitting on that couch is that wounded child. And that's the person that you, Andrea, the mother of two, Mrs. Globe-Classique, the businesswoman, the principal, the author, the speaker, the inspirationalist, needs to turn around and say, okay, wait. First off, 16, sit down, princess. Secondly, wounded Andrea, your job is just to take peace. And now the adult Andrea, you and I need to talk. We need to talk.
Yeah.
You're okay.
Well, I need.
You need some strong mantras. One of my favorite mantras that I say to myself so often still, Tracy, you are much more powerful than you remember. You are much more powerful than you remember. You are much more powerful than you remember. Remember your power. And the really good thing is when you have a support system and you can literally like pick up the phone and go, okay, remind me why I'm powerful. I'm looking through all my emotional files. No file available. No file available. Remind me what you see in me. Remind me of my strength right now, because we do need that outside reinforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to tell you that you are strong and you are bold, and you can protect that 16-year-old. And you go get a big glitter red finger, and when she starts waving it at you, you tell her, "Oh no, girl, this is going back at you. You sit down, princess." And it will help to be a reminder,
Mm-hmm.
and to create that space, because that space between the traumatized self and that space between what we think is our reality, I am a loser, I never get anything right, that's where we can sink.
Mm-hmm.
But when we create that space and we put on our today head,
Mm-hmm.
not our perfect head, not our I know everything head, but you know enough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've brought 2 children into this world, to this point, and they're doing pretty great. And if I recall your past week, you've been refereeing 8th graders, right? In classrooms, so you kind of know how to manage traumatized children and motivate kids. So you do have the truth in you. So what's one truth that you would actually tell yourself right now?
That I am strong. I tend to think that I'm constantly a weak person and I really don't have anything to contribute. So I would probably say that, you're a strong person. You have a lot to contribute. You have a lot of experiences that people need to hear or want to hear or don't even know they need to hear it. You have a lot of messages with your past experiences and who you are today. So,
Well, I know that a lot of people watching might not know your full story, and we're going to get your book written for sure. But I'm going to tell you, just as an outside sounding board, that what you survived, where you should be in life, is suicide, is a drug user, is an abandoning mother, is somebody who just completely gave up on life.
mhm,
That's where, based on what you have been through, what the evidence said that you should result in,
mhm,
and yet you're not. You're a fantastic mother, you're a contributor, you're a principal, you're a problem solver, you're an inspirationalist, you're a gift giver of joy, you're a friend, you're a partner, you're funny, you have so much. And that's the truth of who you are. So
mhm.
right there, the evidence doesn't add up. So
Yeah.
that makes 16 a liar. All right, Ms. Andrea, you want to say anything else to the viewers that are watching?
Uh,
What would be your 2 cents about 16, what you're learning and how you're growing?
well, as I said, 16's been around probably a few months now. Best to try to find my sense of purpose, and she's telling me I don't have any. So
Watch out for her globalization. She speaks to you in globalizations.
she
You don't
does.
have any.
Yeah.
Well, I get up and shower. I mean, give me a point for that.
Well, because of the trauma, right? The rooted
Yeah,
trauma.
that's his all trauma. It's
My
all
mo-
trauma speaking.
my mother and even my dad, that just, you have no sense of purpose. You're not supposed to ask questions. You're supposed to be quiet. You're supposed to stay in your room, and we're just going to run havoc and do whatever we want to do. And you're just supposed to be over there, you know?
And you know what those are? Those are unfair, wrong rules.
Yeah.
And that's the message that you need to get to that inner wounded child is, you know what? Those are not the rules of life.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? I'm here to tell you what I've learned in all my years of trying to put this trauma behind me. Those are lies. Nobody gets to run havoc over your life. And, it goes from here, and it will slowly trickle down. But eventually, if we continue with the same messages, just like advertising, play it again and again and again and again. I'm going to send you some good mantras
Oh,
that you
good.
can that you can hold on to.
Well, I like that everything is always working out for me. That's an awesome mantra, and that has worked. It is extremely a powerful mantra. I mean, I
Isn't it great?
have a husband to use it, which is that's a big deal.
Yeah, everything is always working out for me. Everything is
Right.
always working out for me. Everything
Yeah.
is always working out for me. I am much more powerful than I remember. I'm much more
Oh,
powerful than I remember. I'm much more powerful. And another one that I like to say every morning is, oh yeah, God likes to bless Tracy Campbell. And another one I like to say is, oh my gosh, the universe wakes up with me. And I am in the universe's viewfinder 24 hours a day. I'm
ooh,
in the universe's, isn't that a good one? I'm in the
yeah.
universe's, I would say, you're alone, going brothers. Yeah, she emphasizes her words like, alone, you know, you're allowed going through this. That I just say, you know, no, I'm gonna stop it. I'm gonna give a more truth-telling thought. Or at least I feel better thought. Whether
Yeah.
or not I think it's true, what about what just feels better? And another really good way to get out of 16's grip, and then we're out of time here, is I ask myself, well, how's that thought working out for you?
I like that one. I say that to Marley all the time.
Yeah. Well, how's that thought working out for you? Well, I just feel about 10 times worse than I did 10 minutes ago. Well, good. How's that thought working out for you? And then sometimes I have to get a piece of paper and scribble it down and post it on my walls. But I mean, to me, when it comes to 16, my mentality is whatever it takes to silence her, whatever it takes. So I hope all of you enjoyed our show 16 and Me. This is the beautiful Andrea Kilpatrick. And thank you so much, Andrea, for sharing. And, you know, whenever one of the things that I'm finding about this program, 16 and Me, is the importance of not just me, you know, sharing a tool on how to, you know, silence 16 and replace those messages with something more affirmative and positive, but also just to when we take the fire out of the dragon, you
Mm.
know, and when suddenly you hear that somebody else, you know, has a finger wagger or, you know, a head bobbler, and just like, oh, she's a head bobbler, you know, and she does this with her mouth and her throat, you know, and her long words, you know, when you're able to find that there are other people who are like, oh, that happens to me. Well, that has to go to know that as we are all uniquely made, and our 16s crossover, that it's probably all the same trauma,
Hmm.
and together we can get to a better place. Not kicking 16 out of our life, because you know she there's a reason why she's screaming. She doesn't want us to hurt again. However, out of 17 seats at the table, she gets how many? One. All right, Andrea, you have a great weekend. I love you lots. Thank you for all of you joining us. I hope that you enjoyed this edition of 16 and Me, and we will be back next Friday for 16 and Me. Call your friends, let them know. 16 and Me, Friday mornings, 9:30 Pacific time, and definitely come join the Be She community. It's over on Facebook. And all you have to do is look for Be She Success Communities. Hello, Geeta. It's nice to see you. Hello, Monique. It's nice to see you. Hello, Sylvia Yamin. It's nice to see you. I'm just now logging off, and we will see you guys next Friday for 16 and Me. Lots of love. Have a great weekend.